Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In today's video, we're going to once again be discussing the wealth of Harry Potter. Now, it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that Harry was rich, filthy rich. I mean, maybe he wasn't Malfoy rich or Lestrange rich, but he certainly had enough money. Money which he was able to expertly preserve throughout the course of the films by having everything bought for him. Seriously, Harry didn't have to buy anything. Hedwig, Hagrid, Nimbus 2000, McGonagall, Firebolt, Sirius. We're introduced to Harry's Masters of Gold at the very beginning of the series, when Hagrid brings him to Gringotts and shows him Vault 687. When Harry walks in, he's visibly gobsmacked by the sheer volume of coins in front of him, a veritable assault on his senses. The family wealth started with the founding patriarch of the family, Linfred of Stinchcombe, a 12th-century potioneer who was quite successful in the potions business. Harry's grandfather, Fleamont Potter, continued the family business and made a fortune of his own, leaving it all to Harry's father, James. This meant that naturally, when James died, the fortune was left to Harry, the fortune of centuries of successful potioneers. So now I think a good question is, what did Harry actually do with his money? Did he use it philanthropically? Did he use it to help the Weasleys? I mean, they were the family that took him in as one of their own. They also happened to struggle financially. I think I see an obvious use for his money here. In stark contrast with Harry, we have the Weasleys, who were poor, and I mean poor. It wasn't that Arthur had a bad job, it was just that him and Molly had so many children. 7 sets of school supplies, 7 sets of clothes, and 7 mouths to feed, 8 if you include Harry's. Arthur's salary had to cover a lot. Their financial situation became so dire that Weasley almost became synonymous with poor, something which Draco so fondly reminded them of whenever he had the chance. Think my name's funny, do you? Well, no need to ask yours. Red hair and a hand-me-down robe? You must be a Weasley. Molly didn't work either, which was part of the problem. But in all fairness, they did have 7 children, and I'm sure that's no easy task taking care of them and keeping them all organized. However, I suppose she must have had a bit of a break when the kids were at Hogwarts, right? The bottom line is that they had no money. So my question is, did Harry ever help them out? Did he ever shell out some of that fortune to the family that was arguably more deserving of it than anyone else? For quite some time, Ron Weasley, Harry's best friend, went without a wand because it had broken. This hindered his education, and his family couldn't afford to replace it. So why on earth didn't Harry give Ron money for a new wand? I can sort of see why Harry might feel uncomfortable overtly handing over cash to Ron, but why couldn't he have surprised him with a new wand? Why couldn't he have sent money to Molly, Arthur, to purchase it for him? I get that the Weasleys are proud and may not want to take money from Harry, but by paying for the wand, Harry would simply be compensating them for something that was his fault in the first place. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's an uncomfortable affair. Harry may have felt odd giving Ron money, and I'm willing to bet that Ron would feel odd taking that money. But why didn't Harry do it through the teachers? What about anonymously? Furthermore, Hogwarts offers financial aid which covers expenses related to materials, school supplies. So why didn't Ron, the Weasleys, take advantage of that? As it turns out, the reason that Ron didn't apply for financial aid is probably the same reason that they wouldn't accept money from Harry, Molly's pride. That lot won't come cheap, said George with a quick look at his parents. Lockhart's books are really expensive. Well, we'll manage, said Mrs. Weasley, but she looked worried. I think that part of this pride stems from the fact that they actually had some money. It was just stretched so much among the family members that it made things difficult. Arthur had a respectable salary. It just wasn't enough to cover everyone comfortably. Had they actually been properly poor, then maybe she would have been more receptive to the financial aid available to them. So Harry didn't shell out for Ron's wand, but did he ever help them out financially? I think that, namely because of their pride, the Weasley family would have never accepted money from him. However, there was one instance in which Harry was able to help them out, specifically Fred and George. However, Harry did have to hide this donation to the twins from Molly. This was because A, she wouldn't have approved of them taking money from Harry, and B, she didn't necessarily think that opening a joke shop was a viable career option for them. Harry grinned. He'd forced the Weasley twins to take the 1,000 galleons prize money he'd won in the Triwizard Tournament to help them realize their ambition to open a joke shop. But he was still glad to know that his part in furthering their plans was unknown to Mrs. Weasley. She did not think running a joke shop was a suitable career for 2 of her sons. Another thing to consider is that Harry himself felt awkward about his fortune stashed away at Gringotts, money in abundance that he never had to earn himself. This is supported by the following quotes. Harry said nothing. He felt a bit awkward. Stored in an underground vault at Gringotts in London was a small fortune that his parents had left him. Also, Harry felt even worse when they reached his vault. He tried to block the contents from view as he hastily shoved handfuls of coins into a leather bag. At the end of the day, I think that what this really boils down to is the fact that the Weasleys would have never accepted Harry's money, even if he had offered. Harry was uncomfortable about his wealth to begin with, and this uncomfortability meant that he rarely even thought about it. Furthermore, a young boy offering money to a respectable employee of the Ministry of Magic and the parents of his best friend is just somehow inappropriate. Money is weird and divisive, so it wasn't that Harry was greedy, not at all. He was just trying to be considerate and respectful of their pride. To add to that, another thing to consider is that Harry wasn't really money-minded. It wasn't something that had ever occurred to him because he basically always had it. With the Dursleys, he was fed, provided clothes, and given shelter, and was abused so much that he wasn't ever really given a proper opportunity to find out about things that he may have wanted, things beyond the essentials. Harry's a kind and good person, but he was thrown into wealth while he was still very young, which meant that he never truly understood the importance of money until much later on. It must have felt like play money to Harry, entering a magical world where he was able to afford any and everything, all without having to work a day in his life. It took Harry time to learn about the relationship between time and money, and how much someone would have to work to be able to afford the things he could buy by snapping his fingers. It was in such abundance that it wasn't often on his radar. He didn't have to think about it. Children don't necessarily equate time with effort, and by the time Harry truly realized the significance of the pile of gold he was sitting on, he had formed such a strong relationship with Ron that it would have been bitterly inappropriate to downplay that friendship by offering him substantial sums of money. Anyway, I hope that answers the question as to why Harry never gave the Weasleys money, of course with the exception of the funds he provided to Fred and George for their joke shop. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, as much money in life as you could want, the two things most human beings would choose above all. The trouble is, humans do have a knack of choosing precisely those things that are worst for them.